Governor, in the upcoming negotiations, or the ongoing negotiations on the Promissory Note, which we're told that the government will have finalised and signed off before the 31st of March, is it your opinion that there could be a solution whereby the entire amount, the 28 billion, is completely written off?
No.
It's therefore your opinion that the deal, no matter what its structure, will involve the future appropriation of public money?
Yes.
Thank you. I'd like to move on to a very serious case which came to my attention on Monday, and it's a case in a constituent in Wicklow, and it seems to be a case of quite serious harassment by permanent TSB. The case at the moment is she's on an auto dial whereby the bank is calling her mobile on average 6 times a day. When she answered the phone, it says, "Please hold for a member of the debt collection agency or team," or something like that. Her mortgage is unsustainable. She's on a back-to-work scheme. She has a small business which hopefully will begin to produce revenue within the year. She has dealt with a very serious medical issue, stress-related medical issue. She contacted MABS and asked them to contact permanent TSB to say she would be in contact in July, but that she needed to be left alone. MABS did so. The bank is aware of the medical situation, and from the 27th of December has had her on auto dial. The bank, permanent TSB, has been asked by her and by MABS to stop this. Now, I have more details. I don't have time to go into them now. Can I ask, do you think this practice is acceptable from permanent TSB? Do you, as the Governor of the Central Bank, condone it?
It sounds that it probably is not consistent with the Code of Conduct on Mortgage Arrears, which we have set out and which we will be reviewing, but not in the direction of in the direction of tightening, if anything. So it sounds on the face of it that would go well beyond what we would envisage. I would add a rider, though. Sometimes people think if this would just go away, the problem would be solved. It may very well be that the best thing she possibly could do would be to answer one of those, or to get the engagement. That is often the biggest step, is to realise that your problem is a problem that can be addressed, can be dealt with, that somebody else is sharing it, and even if that other person is the creditor, that can be so engagement, I think, is often the solution, but that doesn't mean that they can ring up every.
Thank you. And she is engaging. She just asked for time to be left alone on medical grounds. Thank you very much. I'd like to move then very quickly to the Personal Insolvency Bill. We have a public statement from Richie Boucher saying there will be no debt surrender under the Personal Insolvency Bill by Bank of Ireland. We have a statement from Jeremy Masding to this committee, the Chief Executive of Permanent TSB, saying it is the policy of Permanent TSB that there will be no debt surrender. We had that backed up by Mr Ray McSharry, who in front of this committee recently, as one of our public interest directors, said there will be no debt surrender within the context of the personal insolvency legislation. It is the clear opinion of the government that there will be. Can I ask you, is it your opinion that there will be debt surrender as part of the personal insolvency legislation?
It's my view that there will be many cases in which there will be permanent loan modifications which involve, in some cases, reduction in principal, in other cases, permanent reduction in interest, etc., etc. That may not be what those gentlemen are referring to. They may have some refined view of what debt forgiveness is, but my plain understanding is that there will be many cases, though not a majority of cases, but many cases in which such permanent loan modifications involving a reduction in principal and or interest, including cases where there are two-tier, where the second tier might come back at some stage, but there will be many such cases, and the central bank will not be satisfied with a situation where the banks are continuing to deal with cases that require full modification or a permanent modification as if they were cases that could be fully serviced without any loss of net present value, because there are going to be many such cases.
Thank you, Governor. And can I ask, if Bank of Ireland and Permanent TSB do what they say they are going to do, which is to absolutely rule out debt surrender, which in plain English you've just said is part of the insolvency bill, what can and will the central bank do if it sees that these banks are not engaging in what the government has deemed to be in the public interest within this legislation?
Well, there are three dimensions to it. I mean, our first step has been to get them to where we all discuss their procedures, their processes, their policies. We can require them to have policies that deliver, when they are technically able to deliver a certain proportion of, a certain number of debt modifications. We don't rely on that as the sole measure, but we can and will require them to do that. If they are not dealing with their mortgages, we will have to require them to increase their capital, because actually, by not being prepared to deal on a permanent basis to those debts that cannot be paid, they are actually worsening the risk position of the banks and will require more capital.